Rajdeep Sardesai also joins us. Rajdeep, how are you looking at particularly the tweet which has been put out by Prime Minister Modi, giving us enough indications, but as Ambassador Gore said, that, the punitive tariff continues. That's what the indication is. It's only the reduction of that 25%. Okay, Siddharth, you want to correct?
No, I don't think he said
yourself.
that. I don't think he said
You have
that.
to unmute yourself.
He actually said that
he
the
said
tariffs
only
will...
18%. That's what he
said the
emphasized
tariffs
on.
will be at 18%.
18%, yes.
With the assumption that India will stop buying oil from Russia. So therefore,
right.
the new tariff schedule will be 18%. Therefore, presumably the 25% penalty is
Yes.
gone. The only question is, of course, Donald Trump in his tweets has put certain facts that will need to be checked. He has claimed that the US will, that India has agreed to reduce tariffs down to zero and over time, and that India has agreed the word agricultural products is also used. Now, whether this is just Donald Trump shooting off or whether there is the details of the trade deal, therefore, will have to be looked at carefully. But I think net, what we have is a broad agreement. At this stage, that's what you have, is a broad agreement, which is great news, which is a positive. Where that leads us in terms of the details, whether what are the specific areas where tariffs will be reduced to zero, and where exactly, what are the $500 billion of American goods that we are going to buy, all of that, I think we'll have to wait and see. And it's interesting, therefore, because Parliament is on, India will have, I presume the Indian government will be a little bit more careful before making a counter statement without having all the facts of the deal on the table.
Okay, so perhaps the announcement could happen. The Prime Minister has given indication. What he has said, Rajdeep, is delighted that made in India products will now have a reduced tariff of 18%.
I think that's the first big takeaway, that what was 50% till this evening will now be 18%. I think the markets, I'm sure Siddharth will know more, will certainly cheer that. It's a huge boost in that sense, coming on the back of the India-EU deal. The only question mark now is the nitty-gritty of exactly how this will be worked out. That might take a little while longer, I presume. But I think once the two leaders have so warmly reciprocated each other's feelings in their tweets, you can expect, at least for now, the deal to be well on the road to complete finalization.
Okay, Siddharth, you wanted to come in. US President says that the tariff, reciprocal tariff, has been reduced from 25% to 18%. Prime Minister Modi has specifically talked about that 18%. What happens to the 25% punitive tariff now? Siddharth Zarabi.
The deal has been done. So here's how we are structuring it. But Rajdeep, very quickly on the point about the markets, the GIFT Nifty almost up 2.5% immediately after the news. So yes, Tuesday is going to be a bumper opening, and all the pain of the STT hike of Sunday budget will be forgotten. Here's the deal from what I'm picking up, Maria, with the caveat that we have to wait for official word. Remember the tariff prior to 25%, the most favored nation status that we enjoyed ranged from 2.5% to 5%, in certain cases up to 6% US tariffs on India. That went up to 25%. From 25, there was an additional penalty. The US ambassador very, very clearly said the final number will be 18. Therefore, it means it is contingent to the nitty-gritty and fine print of the trade deal being signed. I can also now go ahead and say that the pile of proposals was actually pending or with President Trump on his desk virtually for long. And remember, if we have already offered near zero access to the European Union on values to 91.5%, on trade to almost 98%, there is no problem in doing the same with the United States. It doesn't work that way, that you can have different levels for different trading blocks. On the Russian oil, there has been a 30% plus reduction, gradual slide on purchases. If we get oil from other sources, including Venezuela, I make this point here, India in this region has amongst the highest capacities to process Venezuelan crude. Transport and freight costs is a separate matter. then we can easily switch gears. And I don't think it will go down to zero as far as Russia is concerned. Some amount of posturing is also, part of such announcements. And one quick final point on the $500 billion purchases, Gaurav knows that if it were left to the Americans, they would probably want to sell us $800, $900 million of major arms platforms, minus the source code, that controversy, if we remember. So buying $500 billion over 5 years or 6 years or 10 years or 20 years of a trade deal pact is peanuts for India. So let's not just kind of think that $500 billion is selling the bank and the gold and silver that Indians have. $500 billion is not a massive amount, provided it is not asked for to be done in one day.
Okay, so let's start wrapping up this conversation, and I'm going to begin with you, Geeta. What should we be expecting tomorrow besides the markets, as Siddharth has indicated that it's going to be a bumper opening?
Well, it's huge. It's a huge, huge statement, a confirmation coming in from none other than the US ambassador to India. But again, I'll still wait for details from the Ministry of External Affairs. The Indian side has still not spoken, apart from Prime Minister Modi's tweet, which does not mention the trade deal at all. So, need confirmation and clarity from the Indian side.
Okay. Gaurav? So we'll wait for more clarity from the India side. Prime Minister Modi's tweet essentially says that made in India products will now have a reduced tariff of 18%. Are there some more aspects of trade deal which has to be spelled out?
The devil lies in the detail. What about agriculture? What about dairy? What about, all of that was an absolute no-go area. India wasn't going to give any access to the Americans when it comes to corn, not for human consumption, perhaps for biofuel. And Siddharth can tell us better whether, that was a gift, because President Trump was very keen for some access on corn. They have so much corn that's lying, but India cannot do that to compromise our agriculture. So those are some of the details. But this is a huge, huge development in the right direction. Indian exports, and especially labor-intensive exports, dairy, fisheries, textiles, all of them getting access not just to the United States of America, to EU, but also once again to the United States of America, and so many more avenues that India explored in this 1 year that the tariffs had come in. That just goes on to show that, India basically now has laddus in both hands. Now we just need to build capacity in a very big way. Also very significant, Sergio Gore telling you and our team that Quad went nowhere, and Quad is still here, because Quad is as important for the United States of America as it is for India to ensure sea lanes of communication are kept open. That is where defense cooperation will also see a lot more happening. So defense and technology was happening, needs to be scaled up. Tariff was holding this relationship back. Trust factor, trust once broken takes a long time to rebuild. And, India will, very slowly move forward and will actually check the fine print on everything before signing the dotted line, as, our team has watched in the past 1 year. There was a compact that was virtually done in February last year, and a very comprehensive compact. And yet we went through this. But one thing is there, Bharat jhuka nahi. When we look at the details, it's a great thing to say India did not buckle under pressure, showed up relationship with China if we had to, with European Union, with other partners, but a trade deal where Indian interests, India first and Indian interests supreme.
Yes.